Happy Wednesday. I'm late, so I'm going to try to be brief tonight. It is good to be here. This has been a difficult week for many, but this week I'm going to spend a little time and take a little time following up on last week's message, which was set the course, how to set micro goals to get where it is that you want to get. And micro goals of what have is probably one of the most important things I've ever used. It's what has gotten me through a lot of things, through getting out of debt, through getting through law school, through getting married, through switching careers and moving across country and logisticizing my life. Micro goals have been the thing that has enabled me to break down where I wanted to be into bite-sized pieces and ultimately end up in the neighborhood, you know? And I think I said it last week, but I'll say it again. If you aim for the moon, even if you miss, you're likely to land among the stars. So, setting your course helps you get a course set for the direction of your dreams. But how do you stay the course? That's what we're talking about tonight. If this is your first time catching one of my lives, go back and watch last week. But my name is Naomi. I go by the How To Chick. I'm a child of God, a wife, a mom, an attorney, a coach, a mentor, and a speaker. I believe you can do anything, but you cannot do everything, and you must choose wisely. I come on Wednesday nights at or around 9 p.m. Eastern Standard to talk a little bit about life, love, and relationships. Most importantly, the relationships that we have with ourselves and God, because those necessarily inform every other relationship in our life. In this month of January, I'm talking about how to set goals and how to finish strong. So we're going all the way through. Next week, we're going to talk about how to finish the course. And I hope that I'll see you there and that you'll be able to tell me after watching last week what your micro goals are for 2025 and what you want to see happen in your life. That's a little bit differently different than what you've seen happening in the years to come. I mean, in the years past. And I will say that one thing I've noticed is a lot of people think that just because they have hit their quote unquote big age, they're in their 30s, they're in their 40s, they're in their 50s, that they can't change their lives. But you guys know I'm unapologetically a God girl. And what I will remind you is that most of the people that we see that God called, he did it in their 40s, he did it in their 50s. He told Abraham he was going to make him a father of many nations, and he had no children in his 90s. And so I want to encourage you that what you are doing right now can change the rest of your life, and it doesn't matter where you start. So tonight we're talking about staying the course, how to keep going. If any of you have ever told somebody, your friends, your coworkers, your colleagues, your family, immediate family, your plans, you may think, I don't know why I bothered to tell them. If you've ever told somebody, hey, I'm going to lose 30 pounds this year, or hey, I'm going to write a book this year, or hey, I'm going to run a marathon this year. Sometimes we find that when we start telling people what it is we want to do, we get one of two responses. The first is the poo poo. Oh, you said that last year and you didn't do it. Oh, you've been saying that since 1999 and you haven't done it. The second is the well meaning, good intention, but ultimately extremely stress inducing person who wants to give you every piece of knowledge and wisdom and every tidbit that they've ever acquired on the subject. And I have to admit that what my ADHD brain allows me to better relate to the second person, it's very stressful for me because I have to do my own research. I'm going to see for myself. So it will send me down rabbit holes. So I want to talk about how to stay the course. Everyone says if you want to accomplish something, you have to tell people. You have to find a way to make yourself accountable. And tonight we're absolutely going to talk about accountability because there are two steps to staying the course. One is accountability. You've told people you're going to do this. You've paid money, right? You've put your name on the line. You've set a date. You've gone up and put out a flyer that says, hey, I'm going to be launching this course, or I'm going to be writing this book, or I'm going to be quitting my job and starting my business. You've made yourself accountable. But now, what is step two? to staying the course, because many of us find ourselves in positions where we have told people and we have moved forward, and then life happens. You lose a job, you run out of momentum, someone gets sick, and all of a sudden you find yourself weeks or months behind, and you're embarrassed and ashamed. And now you're not going to meet the goal that you set, the initial goal. Let's say you said you were going to do it in 3 months or 6 months or by June. The bottom line is, how do you keep going when life keeps lifing? Because life is never going to not life. And part one is accountability. You do need to say it. But part two is moving in silence. So there's a difference between accountability and asking for input. And there's a huge difference between accountability and allowing any and every person who has a say in your life to tell you how to do the thing that you've been called to do, that you've been impressed to do, that you are determined to do. I had a friend who really wanted to move out of a city, and she told her mom and her sisters, and they spent months, probably years, convincing her that she would never succeed if she moved to this place that she wanted to move to. And she ended up not moving. And ultimately, I don't think she's living with regrets. But even if something doesn't work out for you, that does not mean it was an experience that you were not supposed to have. And I think she does regret never leaving the place where she spent her formative years. She moved there when she was maybe 10 or 11, and she has not left. And so I would encourage you to understand the difference between accountability and asking for input, and practice how to politely decline other people's opinion on your decision. This is a fine line for a lot of people. And I have to say, I have really, really good boundaries that have come from years of having to deal with well intentioned, well meaning people who have had an opinion on what it is that I have felt called or purposed to do. And you know, I will just say this, like, I got up and, moved to Arizona. I didn't know anybody. I didn't really have a plan for there other than I was going to grad school out there. I could have gone to grad school in Maryland or DC. I could have gone to grad school in California or Georgia, places that I knew people, places, New York, places where I have people. I could have chosen any of those places, but I was being obedient. I was being obedient because I asked God where I was supposed to go. And you guys know I've told you about that before, so I'm not going to rehash it. But everyone was telling me when I told them where I was going after I had made my final decision. I told them after I had accepted my financial aid offer, after I had found a roommate on Craigslist. Yes, I'm dating myself. I absolutely did find my roommate on Craigslist. That's a story for another day, but God has never failed me, and she was great. But I made sure that by the time I told them, there was nothing they could say that would convince me to change what I had purpose in my spirit to do. And Arizona wasn't my dream school. It wasn't even on my list. As a matter of fact, I applied there because I had a fee waiver, which meant I didn't have to pay the application fee. It wasn't something I necessarily wanted to do. So the next thing is, once you have decided what it is that you're going to do, whether the God has told you to do it, because for some of us, we know that God is telling us to do things and we may not want to do it. And sometimes that allows us to go talking to people about it and kind of telling them all the problems that we see, right? Because we're wanting to get feedback that we're not crazy, that this doesn't make any sense. So why, and we got to really examine our own motivations on this. Because sometimes we're not telling people for accountability. We're telling them to get plausible deniability when we don't move forward. So if you've set your course, if you know where it is you're supposed to be heading, you have to be accountable by saying what it is you're going to do, not what you're thinking about doing, not what you would like to do, but what you are absolutely doing, what you are going to do, and what you are in the process of doing. And you have to learn how to do it without brokering opinion. And I learned to say, yeah, I did my research and this is the decision that I've made. And I found probably 15 to 20 polite ways to say that. because you'll be saying it to aunties and uncles. You'll be saying it to well-meaning pastors. You'll be saying it to girlfriends and coworkers. I was about to get, at the time, I had been offered a big promotion at my job, and I could have been making quite a significant amount of money. What's funny, I actually would have been making more money as a base in that job than I did in my first job out of law school. But that was neither here nor there. It wasn't where I was supposed to be. It wasn't what I was supposed to be doing. So I had to say firmly, this is what I'm doing. And many of us find ways to qualify what we're doing, either because we're not sure that we want to do it, we don't see the path towards doing it, or we're looking really for an excuse to not do it. And so when I say set your course, that means your mind is made up and you're definitely heading in that direction. And when I say stay the course, I'm talking about making sure that when you communicate what it is you're doing to whomever it is, your boss, your spouse, and when you're talking about being married, you guys have to have conversations. They need to be aware, right? This is something God told you to do. This is something you've been convicted to do. This is something you've been saving to do and planning to do. And this is how it's going to affect your family. And you guys both have to agree to that. I understand that. I'm definitely not telling you all to go out and make unilateral decisions without consulting your spouse or having those conversations. But when you get ready to communicate what needs to be done around it to people outside your spouse, let's just say that now, it needs to be from a position of fait accompli. If you've ever heard the term fait accompli, it means you present it as though it's already done. So it's something like you're going to ask, this is just an example, you're going to ask your girlfriend's mother as a young man for her hand in marriage, or her father for her hand in marriage, but they don't like you. So instead of doing that, you guys go to the courthouse, you get married, and then you present them with, we are getting married and we will be having our wedding next year. That is a fait accompli. And so many times we go into situations with, this is what I think I'm planning on doing, or this is how I want to get there. I'm thinking maybe in the next 2 to 3 years. It's really important, if you plan on staying the course, even if you're not sure you're going to be able to make it in the timeline, in the 3 months and the 6 months and the 12 months that you've set, that you communicate from a position of strength. This is what I'm doing. And be prepared with an elevator speech if you don't know exactly how you're getting there, especially when it's something you were called to do, like move across country and you haven't gotten a job yet, like sell your home and move to another country, and you haven't figured out how you're going to make it happen yet. It makes sense to communicate only to the people who are closest to you, who you can trust to support you. And for everyone else, that communication should come only as a fait accompli, which is to say, you've already sold the house, you've already bought your plane ticket, you'll be leaving for Ghana in the next 6 weeks, and you just want them to know. And the reason I say that is because people love nothing more than to tell you what it is that you should be doing with your life based on their view and their perception. They're not living your life. They do not have your assignment or your calling. And it is important to make sure that you are communicating in a way that allows people to understand that they do not have a say in what you do, but you may be open to feedback on how you do it. If you are, because sometimes you're not. The second portion is just be quiet. And it ties into what I was just saying. There are going to be people that are going to be in your business, and they're going to have nothing nice to say. And they're going to find 17 negatives for every positive. And they're going to be discouraging. These people, who they are, and you know how they are. Do not tell them when you have set your course. It's not their business. They're going to see your course. I did have a friend who loved to go out to eat and drink, and she was exuberant. She just loved going out. And every time I would tell her, hey, I'm on a weight loss journey, I'm not eating out, I'm not doing this. Oh, girl, I got you. I'm going to pay for you. Girl, don't even worry about it. These are two different sentences. I didn't say and there had been points where I was like, okay, I need to get debt free. I'm not going out for financial reasons. I said, I'm not going out because I don't want to eat out food. And it was like it went in one ear and out the other. So I just stopped telling her. She would message me or call me saying, "Oh, girl, I'm unavailable tonight." Because what happens is when you give them enough information, they will actually rebut you with your own words. And it kind of becomes a situation where it's circular and you end up almost in an argument to do what you have a right to do in the beginning, which is to simply say no. For those of you who understand no is a complete sentence, for those of you who don't, it's better to not communicate with those people at all because you already know who they are, how they are, and what they're going to do. Moving in silence also gives you the capacity to make adjustments. When you give people too much information off the bat and you, for example, start missing milestones, oh, the book is not ready to go by May or by June or by July. Now people are asking you questions now. And here's the thing, like I used to always think, oh, people aren't really haters. Like people are generally happy for other people. There are people who are haters. There are people who are going to be happy to say, see, she said she quit her job. She said she was going to get that business up and running. I've been on her website. She got them same 3 raggedy things. And the website still says site loading. There's always going to be somebody who has something negative to say. So the less information you give them about your how and your purpose and your plan, the better. You know, there are lots of reasons why this is important, why moving in silence is important. But another reason is, that there are, and I talked about this last year, probably in February or March, there was a young lady who said that she had a quote best friend who at some point just confessed to her that everything that the young lady had been praying for, she had been praying against for her. If she was praying to get a new job, she was praying she wouldn't get a new job. If she was praying her boyfriend would marry her, she was praying she would stay single. And there are people who will do that. And listen, I'm not here to say yay or nay or to diagnose anyone in your life. I'm saying the benefits of moving in silence are many. It gives you the opportunity to pivot. It keeps you from having to explain yourself. And it keeps nosy, messy people who are intending to sabotage you out of your business. So staying the course requires that you be willing to be comfortable with the degree of sufficiency, with the degree of loneliness. And I've moved in silence for most of my life. I have friends, I am friendly with people, but most people don't know what I'm going to do and why I'm going to do it until it's done or it's in process. And they can see it. Why? For the reasons discussed. It is important that you take accountability for yourself, responsibility for yourself, and that you be willing to and be comfortable with going alone. You guys have seen I don't know, 500,000 memes about the group chat and the trips that are planned. And when everybody proposes, oh, let's go to Cancun, let's go to Fiji, let's go to Bali, everybody's gung ho. Yes, yes, yes. First payment is due. Now we're down to 4. Second payment is due. Now we're down to 2. Final payment is due and it's just you. And guess what? Sometimes you got to be willing to go alone. A lot of the things that we don't accomplish is because we were waiting on somebody else to come along with us, and they were never meant to be on that journey with you. Your path is for you. Your calling is for you. Your assignment is for you. Don't abdicate your position waiting on somebody else. Learn how to be accountable in ways that make sense for you. Learn how to move in silence and get comfortable with being by yourself. Because anyone who did anything good, you don't even have to quote me on this. Just go look in your Bible. Moses alone, Elijah alone, Jeremiah alone, Isaiah alone. Jesus had the 12 and they kept falling asleep on him alone. So the bottom line is most of the big things that we'll ever accomplish, even if they're just big to us, buying a home, saving up a down payment, going on your first international trip, that's a big deal. But if you sit around waiting on other people, you may never see it happen. Set your course and then stay the course. And remember, you can do anything, but you can't do everything, and you must choose wisely. Next week, we're coming back to talk about how to finish strong. And I hope to see you next week. And if you did not catch last week, watch last week. And I want to hear what your micro goals are for this year. And don't worry, you don't have to say them publicly. You can DM me if you want to keep silent and to move in silence for your goals for 2025. It doesn't matter how you do it. It doesn't matter what your goal is. It doesn't matter if it's big. It doesn't matter if it's tiny. Just know that if you are able to mind over matter yourself into believing that you're the only person who is accountable for this and therefore you're the only person who matters, you'll be able to keep going. Don't wait on anybody else. Go get your life, your dreams, your goals. Only you are responsible for your assignment. Have a good week. I'll see you next week on Wisdom Wednesday. Good night.